Okay, today I have 5 books that changed my life. And these are not the 5 best books I've ever read. These are just 5 books that, for one reason or another, resonated with me, taught me something about myself, and, really helped me get through a difficult period in my life. And I think, these books might not resonate with you the way they resonate with me, but for whatever reason, they have a special place in my heart, and I picked them up at the right time. And this video isn't just to suggest books that can do that for you, but it's also to tell you that, like, if you're struggling with something, if you're dealing with something that you don't know how to deal with, there's someone that solved it before. There's someone that went through it before. There's someone that, felt the need to publish something and tell you exactly how they dealt with it so that you can better deal with your own scenario. So, with that said, keep in mind that whenever your back is against the wall, whenever you don't know what to do, whenever you're struggling with a problem, whenever the circumstances feel insurmountable, you can look to the people around you, but you can also look to books to help you as well. The first book we have is honestly the first book that I read during my adult life. Can't Hurt Me. I feel like I stopped reading after high school. When I was in college, I was a STEM major, so I didn't have to read anything except textbooks. And I kind of missed it for whatever reason. Like I was burnt out with reading because most of the books that I read for high school or for middle school or for even younger years, I really didn't like. There was a handful of books that I still like to this day, such as Frankenstein, such as The Catcher in the Rye, The Great Gatsby. Those books were really good, but I also read a whole lot of stinkers, and I think this really took me away from the joy of reading. It really took me away from reading for fun. But this is the first book that I picked up, and I was like, wow, this is something. And this book is the story of David Goggins. This is his first book. I think he only has 2 out at this point, I want to say. But Can't Hurt Me is extremely empowering, and it's extremely confronting at the same time. And it teaches you that no matter what you think you've done, no matter what hand you've been given, you can always do more. And to me, I was at a period in my life where I didn't feel any hope. I didn't feel like I could do anything. I didn't feel like I was going in the right direction. And instead of waking up, instead of getting up off the couch, instead of getting up and doing something, I was just wallowing and sitting there. And the thing about this book that sets it apart from others in my mind is that it really got me to dedicate myself to things that I could do to improve myself. And I think, maybe it's not the best book for that. Maybe it's too brash. Maybe it's too arrogant. Maybe it's too confronting in some regards for certain people. But for me, it was the exact kick in the ass I needed to get myself up, to get myself going, to, start my journey of, improvement. And I will be forever grateful for this book, and I'll be forever grateful that I picked it up at the time I picked it up. The next thing we have is The Power of Awareness. The Power of Awareness is perhaps one of the best books I've ever read. It's by Neville Goddard. The beauty of this book is it teaches you to rewire and refocus and reimagine who you believe yourself to be. Because simply put, if you believe yourself to be someone different than you already are, then you can start acting as that different person. But until you change that definition, until you change that I am, until you change who you believe yourself to be, you will always do the same thing. You will always fall for the same traps. You will always have the same exact habits and the same exact actions, and guess what? You'll get the same results. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. It's the same exact thing. If you don't like who you are right now, it's not changing anything else except yourself that will affect it. If you continue to do the same things, you will be the same person. And I think Neville puts it perfectly. And Neville is very spiritual. Neville is very esoteric in a sense, but I think there is a lot to be gained from it. And if you take it purely as you changing who you believe yourself to be, I think that is one of the greatest ideas that you will ever stumble upon. And honestly, discovering Neville's work and discovering his words and what he preaches, it's you become a different person. You become the person who you were always meant to be. You define yourself as who you want to be defined as, not as what the world tells you, not as what the experiences tell you, but you change that definition based off of your own desires. And I think that's one of the most powerful messages that you could ever have. And I think through practicing Neville's practices, I've gained a lot of insights, and I became closer to the person that I've always wanted to be. The next thing we have is The Laws of Human Nature. the reason I chose this book is, one, it's a great book. It truly is. I think this is Robert Greene's best book. But at the same time, I think it introduced me to a lot of ideas that I wanted to explore more, and it really took me on the path of reading Nietzsche, of reading Jung, of reading Dostoevsky. And I think that's the greatest aspect of Robert Greene's works. I think he's a great introductory to a lot of more deep philosophical ideas, a lot of more deep psychological ideas, and he synthesizes them so perfectly. And I think, that's really the beauty in Robert Greene. Obviously, he has a lot to say, but I think the greatest element, for me at least, is that he inspired me to pick up authors. He familiarized me with authors' ideas, and he steered me in the right direction of a lot of great works. And it's because of, Robert Greene that I read The Gay Science. It's because of him that I've read extensively the work of Jung. And it's really, really, really important to pick up this book because it teaches you how to deal with yourself, but how to deal with others, and the relation between those two ideas. And it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's ever been more important to learn how to deal with people that you don't like. I don't think it's ever been more important to deal with people who don't like you, because I feel like we live in such a shallow age. I feel like we live in an age where people can't see past themselves, and people can't understand that, you know what, I'm being an asshole here. And those are people that you're going to deal with for the rest of your life. Maybe you are the asshole. I'm certainly an asshole, but like, I feel like I'm at least entertaining with it. So, it's a little bit better. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to continually deal with people in the same way, or do you want to deal with people in a better way to get a better result? And that's really what this book is talking about. It's talking about why people are doing things, the motivation behind it, the reasons why you act a certain way when you're faced with a certain scenario, why you fold when the moment comes. And so many interesting ideas, so many great things in this book, and I really think it's well worth the read. If you read the 48 Laws of Power, I think this book is better. If you haven't read the 48 Laws of Power, I would pick this one up first because I think it's more interesting. I think it's more insightful. But, these are just suggestions. The next thing we have is The Power of Now. And the reason I have The Power of Now in this book is because it really made me understand this idea. Like, this is an idea that I've talked about previously, but I don't think I've quite practiced it in the same sense that I practice it now. And it's the idea that nothing matters except this moment. I've said this a million times. I've told you guys this a million times, but for whatever reason, the way Eckhart Tolle says it is, it just registered. And I was thinking this in the sense of like, oh well, you don't have to be stressed out if you only live in the moment. If you have complete awareness, then stress just fades. But it's also happiness as well. If you can't be happy in this moment, then you'll never be happy. And that's really the truth of it. Like, do you expect when you have more money, when you have more responsibility, when you have a job that takes more of your time, do you think you're going to be more happy? Probably not. Probably not. You're going to have the same problems, if not more. You're going to have more things on your shoulder. You're going to have more stressors. And I think it's a very weird idea that, like, things are just going to get better. And the truth is, things will never be perfect. And it's, if we can't deal with our problems right now, then we can never deal with our problems. And it's just, it clicked and it hit me, especially when I was reading this book. And the other thing that I think really, really registered is Eckhart Tolle. I think he might say this in the book, but I saw it in an interview. But this idea is echoed throughout the book. Where are your problems right now? Where are they? If they're not in front of you, they don't exist. And that's an idea that when I tell this to people, they try to cope. They try to say, well, no, it's here, it's this. Like, if the problem isn't banging on your door, if the problem isn't, directly in front of you, why are you stressing out about it? Why are you making it worse? If you can do something about it, do something about it. But if you can't do anything about it, why are you making it worse? Unless you are actively trying to solve the problem, do not worry about it. And to me, these are some of the most inspiring ideas. And to me, these are some of the things that have helped me get out of my, I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but like, that need to be doing something, that need to be active, that need to be feeling like you're busy. It's really gotten me out of that idea. And I think this is something that's ingrained with us, especially in the West, especially in the school system where, if we're not doing something, if we're not studying, if we're not doing this, if we're not doing that, then we are wasting our time because someone else is doing this, someone else is doing that. And it's like, I think arbitrarily giving yourself more stress is arbitrarily making your life worse. And that's really what Eckhart Tolle is talking about. That's really what he's trying to say. And I think it's masterfully done. I think the book is tremendous and it's definitely worth your time. Um, but yeah, we are on to the last book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And this book's super interesting. I could have included a lot of books, but I think this one does it the best. Um, what this book taught me was how to deal with people, how to phrase things, how to say things, and not necessarily change their meaning, but change the way I said it. And if you know anything about me, I say things. I try not to do it as much, but like I say things in a very like I wouldn't say arrogant. I don't know the right word, but like it's I don't put things softly. I put things in a manner that are confronting, that are kind of insulting, that are kind of aggressive, and it's not even the words that I say that annoy people. It's the way I say it, and to me that's always been my biggest issue. To me, it's never been my intention. It's always been the words that I use, and it was only upon reading this book that I started to soften my language, because forever I was like, well, that's just who I am. That's just this. That's just that. And it's like, maybe to a certain extent, I'm not going to sacrifice my morality. Maybe to a certain extent, I'm not going to sacrifice who I am. But that doesn't mean that I can't say it in a better way for the person to better understand me and avoid conflict and avoid argument. And once that clicked, I was like, you know what? I really need to work on this. I really need to fix this. And this book says so many things. Some of the most interesting things are never insult someone. There's nothing good that comes from insulting someone that works for you. Never argue. There is no such thing as an argument that does not end in some strife. Even if you win the argument, guess what? Now that person has resentment. Now that person is your enemy. Now that person thinks less of themselves, and they associate that feeling of less with you. And it's like, there's all these little things, there's all these little tactics and little tricks that we kind of gloss over, especially in the digital age. I feel like interpersonal skills have never been worse, and this is something that I've struggled with. I mean, I told you earlier I was a STEM major in college. Like, I wasn't blessed with great interpersonal skills. I was blessed with great math skills. But like, it's something that we can all afford to work on. It's something that we can all get better at. And I think when we start to study these things and we start to study books like this is where real changes come from. This is where we can really start to better communicate what we say. Because the better we can communicate, the better we can get our ideas across. You might have the greatest ideas, but if you can't communicate them, then that doesn't mean shit. I'm telling you right now, there are a ton of people like Nikola Tesla. There are a ton of people like Einstein. There are a ton of geniuses that couldn't package their information in the right way, and because of that, they are lost in the history books. And it's like, I need you to understand that no matter how good you are, no matter how skilled you are, there's always a level of showmanship. There's always a level of salesmanship. There's always a certain element that you need to be able to explain your ideas and explain them in a manner that is pleasing, makes sense, hits the right emotions, hits the right audience, and you can only ensure that happens if you can master your communication. And that's why I always suggest this book. I think it's great for people that can't communicate. I think it's great for people that can communicate, and I think it will help you narrow in on a few things that will really go a long way. So, interestingly enough, I think another really, really fun part of this book is, if you don't believe this book, what I want you to do is go out next time you're at a restaurant, next time you're cashing out at a cash register. The people always have their name tag. Say, "Oh, thank you, John. Have a nice day," and watch how someone perks up when you say their name. Watch the smile on their face. Watch the emotion that is evoked, because generally the person's favorite word is their name. They associate with themselves. That's them. And when you know their name, when you can pull their name from the back of your head, boom, you instantly have rapport. And it's something that you'll see the greatest salesmen do. If you've ever talked to a salesperson, they know everyone's name. Why is that? It's because when you use someone's name, when you address them with their name, they immediately like you more than they would otherwise. And that's why we have to learn these things, because it's, one, people are using it on us, and two, it's a way to communicate, and it's a way to express your ideas so that they are better received. And I think this could be seen negatively. This could be seen as manipulation. It's very dumb if you think that's manipulation, but it's also learning how to be a decent person. It's also learning how to say things and not upset people, because the bottom line, if you upset someone in a conversation, the conversation's over. And believe me, I've done that a lot of times. I've ruined relationships, I've ruined conversations, I've ruined friendships, and it's all because of the way I say things. And it's like, only when you start to study these things can you actually begin to make improvements. But with that said, we have, if I can hold them up, we have 5 books that have changed my life. I went into some detail. Obviously, there's things I left out, but hopefully you guys got an overall idea of why I picked these books up, how they helped me, how they helped me get over the certain issues that I was dealing with at the time, and if you have similar issues, maybe they can help you as well. And I think that's a really, really fun thing to do, like share things that benefited me. Maybe you deal with the same thing, maybe you don't, but at the very least, understand that you can solve your problems through literature. You can solve your problems through reading. You can solve your problems through understanding that someone else has gone through the problem, someone felt the need to write a book on the problem, and someone solved the problem. And all you need to do is pick up the pages. All you need to do is flip through them, and you got the solution. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I will catch you in the next one.